Hello, this is a do-it-yourself video on how to repair a clothes dryer that is squealing. This is a combination washer dryer made by Frigidaire. It's called the Frigidaire Gallery Edition. It's about 10 years old, and recently it started squealing, and it was a metal-on-metal, very shrill squeal. So this video already shows the dryer drum out. I'll have another video about how to disassemble and reassemble this whole thing, but right now I'm going to talk to you about what the causes of the squeals are and how to fix them. So the drum itself, this is the back of the dryer cavity, and there's a barrier carrying bearing, is what they call it. And I've got it out in my hand now. It's not really a bearing, it's like a bushing, I think, but anyway, it's called a bearing. And the grease is all dried out in it, and the ball, this is bolted to the back of the drum, and this spins, and this ball fits inside there, so it snaps down into place. So anyway, that one was all dried out, and so I needed a new one. The new one, right here, it was $10, and you can see there are grooves in the bottom of it. Those grooves, I'm not sure what the purpose of them is, whether they hold grease in the grooves, or whether they allow dirt to drop into the grooves and not interfere with the ball running on the high parts of the grooves. I don't know. Doesn't really matter, but anyway, the new one has the grooves. Even though this is a Frigidaire washer dryer, the part I bought was made by Electrolux, and it's got other brand names written on it: Frigidaire, Westinghouse, Kelvinator, Gibson, Tappan, and Philco. It's called a bearing drum support. I don't know if this was the cause of the noise or not. It would be hard for me to believe that this plastic on metal would make that noise that I'm hearing, but anyway, I had the whole thing apart, so I'm going to change it for $10. Now there's a trick to getting it off. So I'm inside the dryer right now, and there's this bracket right here that holds it on. There are two bolts. I've only got one of them in right now, and if you take the two bolts out all at once, there's a bracket in the back that you can probably see a little bit of it through that hole right in the very center of the, see that bracket moving in the very center? Well, that's the bracket on the outside of the dryer on the back end. So a clever individual on the internet said, look, take only one screw out and slide the bearing carrier up like that, and then put the screw back in. Then take the next screw out and slide the bearing carrying out of the way of that screw and put that screw back in, and that way you can get this out and change it without losing the bracket in the back. I tried that, and the bracket in the back shifted anyway. It's no big deal. Just have a second person behind the dryer when you go to put it back together. Now there is one thing to be careful of with these things. Let's see the hole right in the very center. That's where a little ball bearing is supposed to go. Here's a picture of the little ball bearing. And dab a bit of grease on there and stick the ball bearing in there. And that is what keeps your dryer drum from bouncing up and down. I should do it this way, bouncing up and down. The bracket is steady, and this little ball is bolted to the back of the dryer drum, bolted to the back of it, and that little ball that's in my hand right now fits down inside of here, and fits down inside of there. So that ball bearing right in there will hold that thing from bouncing around too much. So that's one place you have wear and could have a noise, but I don't think that was my noise. Also, while we're in here, let's have a look. This is the heating element, obviously, and I won't get into diagnosing that. It's dealing with electrical things, and I would need other equipment to show you how to do that, but basically it would involve measuring the resistance of the element, making sure it's not open or shorted, which I highly doubt it would be shorted, but you could do a visual inspection to see how it goes, or how it looks, and then an inspection by disconnecting those leads, measuring the resistance of the element. And I don't know what it is. Maybe some kind person would respond with what the resistance should be. And then those red and black light leads, those are the feeds for power. And this right here, this little guy, I'm guessing that's a thermal cutout, either a safety or maybe it's just a thermostat. And what was really cool, actually, while I'm on this, when I took this cover off right here, I found this envelope glued to the back of this cover, and it's inside the whole electrical schematic, so if I ever needed it, it's there, which is an awesome idea. So I've told you how to replace the bushing in the back here called the carrier bearing. This ball right here, this whole part that's in view is about $60, and given it's a metal ball, it runs in a plastic bushing. It's almost always the bushing that would go bad, but if you needed to, you could replace that ball as well for $60. I didn't need to. This is the motor, and right in the center of view right there, see that little shaft? Well, that is spring-loaded. Here, let me see if I can do this. My lighting, like all my videos, is probably not the best, but anyway, that's what it is. So there's this shaft that's spring-loaded. There's a spring down there, spring-loaded. Here's the idler pulley, and it goes on that shaft. Now my idler pulley has a little bit of wear side to side, not much. You probably, in theory, should not have any wear at all, and a professional would say you have to replace it. They don't have one in stock at the local parts store, and I don't think it's worn too badly, so I'm going to grease it and then put it back on. There's always the possibility that the bearings in the actual motor are bad, and but the nature of the noise, I'm guessing that's not the case, because the noise would go ring, 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 and so it was very, it was not steady, and since it was not steady, it was occurring at about the frequency I'm guessing that the drum was spinning around. That motor's spinning around pretty well constantly. So if it was a bearing squeal, it would be constant. So I'm guessing it's not the bearing in the motor. So that's that. The other thing is on the front of this. I'll show you the drum now. So here's the back of the drum. And remember that big stainless steel thing I showed you with the ball in the center? Well, it has 3 bolts that go from the inside of the drum, screw into that, and then that ball would be sticking out here and drop into that plastic bushing, right? Okay, so here's the front of the drum, and here's the front. There you go. Now on this inner surface of the drum, this surface is shiny, and I wouldn't say it's worn, but like there isn't any paint off it. The paint would be all worn off it here, and it looks like that could potentially have been where the squealing was coming from. But when I took the front cover off, which I'll show you here, there was an area in it that was supposed to have a felt spacer, and the felt spacer was totally worn. It's supposed to have a felt spacer. Here we go. Okay, so this is the inside of the front cover, right? And it's got this felt spacer that goes all the way around. It's an air gap, and the drum sits over top of that. So this surface right here, that it looks black to you, but it's actually just polished metal. That surface right there rides right on top of this felt surface right here. And since the clothing and all that has weight, and the drum has weight, the top of the highest part of this surface has 3 of these little neoprene slides, or I think they call them glides. And mine there's only one left. Here's my old felt spacer right there, and it was worn, and there were only one glide left. So I know that was worn to pieces, and I wanted it fixed. So the way you fix that, by the way, this part was $36, I think, and it's called a slide drum top. And it was, $37 or so. And here's a nice little diagram showing that the part that I bought was this top felt part. You could also buy the lower bottom felt, which mine is worn, but I'm not going to worry about it. I'll try it just like this. And so what you do is, just grab hold of it to replace it. Grab hold of the old one and tear it off, and it actually came off pretty well. Came off pretty intact. But there was still some residue of glue and fuzz and felt and whatever on the drum, so I put on my safety goggles, as my young son said years ago, safety goggles, and put one of these wire wheels in a drill and went over the area and cleaned it right down to the bare metal. and then it came with this high temperature glue. So I put that glue on pretty liberally, and then before actually, sorry about my string there, before I actually put the felt in place, I kind of formed the felt. I bent it by hand and made sure it kind of, if you just set it on the table, it had a natural curve to it. When I bought it, it was straight. And then I put the glue on pretty heavily. I used probably about half of that tube, and which I felt was more than enough. And then put the felt on. Now it didn't want to stay because the glue hadn't hardened, so I clamped it overnight. These clamps, and now my new one looks like this on the top. Now there's only one tricky part here, and that is, here's the old one. The felt runs like this, and then there's this thing. It sticks out that way. So there's the plastic, and there's the felt. The plastic sticky-outy parts go towards the front of the dryer, or they face the door. They do not face the inside of the drum, so they face away from the drum. So if you put your hand like this, you're not going to actually feel those plastic glides. Okay, so that was that. What else can I tell you about squeaky dryer noises? Oh yeah, while you got this apart, you want to clean everything that doesn't normally get cleaned. So, you know, vacuum in the bottom of the dryer housing and in through the doors and areas that you just normally wouldn't be able to get access to. Vacuum all of that out, clean all of that out. And there's an area also that you really want to watch, which is back here in the back of the drum. The heater element is it comes up almost against this. It doesn't touch this, but it comes up almost against this surface. And there's lint that gathers. Oh, my camera, my lighting. There's lint that gathers in the back of the drum in this area. So just make sure that all that is cleaned out before you put it back together. Your dryer will be much more efficient, and it'll be safer, and you'll be at low or no risk of fire. Okay, so that's how you fix dryer squeaks, and good luck with your project. And see my other video about how to take this apart and put it back together.